Hey there, Bear Club! At the Mama Bear Initiative, we explore how to protect ourselves so we can protect our cubs, the people who depend on us. Join us and get the confidence you need to stay safe, make good choices, and protect yourself and those you care about. Let's go.
Hello and welcome back to the Mama Bear Initiative podcast. My name is Stephanie Dunham.
I'm Evelyn Mason.
I'm Michelle Manu.
We have with us today Michelle Manu, who has agreed to come on our podcast and answer some questions for us. Welcome, Michelle. Thank you so much.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah, welcome.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so exciting. I hope that we have a really good conversation. I'm sure we will. And this particular topic that we picked seems to be right down, your particular focus in life and modus operandi, should I say. And our topic that we'd like to talk to Michelle about is why women need to train in combat arts. So,
Yes.
Michelle, do you want to give us a little introduction about who you are and what you do?
Oh, goodness. So my name is Michelle, and I think my whole life has been focused on safety. It's interesting, and survival. Um, I think I have the honor of teaching the Hawaiian cultural art, which is the warrior art of Lua, to the world. I think since the fall of the kingdom a couple hundred years ago, the history has been told by a male perspective and also a non-Hawaiian male perspective, which has conveniently, like with most cultures, have left women out of the story,
Yeah.
inconveniently. And so, in learning more about the art and reconnecting with the history, and just recently, literally recently, since 2000. I'd say 7 years ago, really understanding, beginning to hear more and learn more through other historians, a woman in particular, about the women's role in warriorism, which led me down into a rabbit hole, and I ended up writing my thesis on what a woman warrior really is, and having to think about the additional rabbit hole of who are we today?
Right.
How do we operate? And do we exist? How we're existing? If we do, how are we training? How are we warring when we choose to go to war? So it's definitely been something that I'm very passionate about. And I can't imagine myself without this purpose. I feel it is my purpose. Because otherwise, I feel like with all of us, we've been given specific gifts. And why do we have them? What are we supposed to do with them?
Right.
And so that's kind of led me down this path and continues to strongly lead me down this path.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
I feel like early on in my martial arts career, I wanted to train women to defend themselves because of trauma. And I had received some healing through training. And so I started teaching self-defense in, I think it was 2018. Is that the number we came up with?
Yeah.
And I was really new to the art that I was in at the time. I was like extremely new. And I'm looking back now going, what did I think I was doing? I had a good heart, but I'm not sure I was quite prepared for that. But we've had a lot of difficulty in convincing women in general that learning to fight is a good idea. This podcast is based on the idea that we want to convince people, women especially, that learning to defend yourself is a priority, that it's a good idea, taking care of yourself, learning to say no, and all sorts of things that we've been talking about for the last year. So,
It's actually self-love. It's self-love.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
agreed.
One of our first things we teach when we're getting together with a new group is, am I worth protecting? Because it all starts there.
That's the question right there. Sure
Yeah.
does. See, don't tell me that. You know plenty. If that's the where you start, you know a lot. Because with women, it's about
Yeah.
belief. And if they don't believe that they are worthy or that they need to, then they just won't
Right.
learn.
Right.
Plus, you
That's
Yeah.
got to
true.
throw in the element of most of us have had really really horrible, I guess, experiences with that sort of energy, or with, unfortunately, men. That's, I'm just going to say it,
Yeah.
because they can't control themselves, or we see them as the carrier of this toxic energy, this harmful energy. And why in the world would any of us want to feel that in ourselves and use it? And that's exactly what we
Right.
need to do. We need to feel that, transmute it, and use it.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. So you're the perfect person to talk to about this specific thing, I think. So, our first question that we sent to you is, could you give us a summary of women in combat throughout history? Because I know you have some knowledge on that. Just sort of in general.
Oh, just
Yeah.
brief. Well, I mean, just briefly, I mean, women have always, what I'm finding now, which is really fascinating to me, is that women have always been used like in an intelligence cell sort of way, planted
Mhm.
among the community to gain intel. Women historically, as warriors, were able to access physical locations that male warriors, couldn't get into. We were the
Mhm.
housekeepers, we were the nannies, we were the cook, we were the cleaners, we were tending to the land. So maybe we were trading, but these are the
Yeah.
ways that we've been used in every culture, in every single culture,
Mhm.
Yeah.
as
It's true.
warriors. And there were those that also took to the field, battled. There were some that were nomadic. Um,
Hmm.
and then I think what's really fascinating is that, um, with women, unlike men who are part of the troops, they're all together. Women tend to be alone, or they tend to be with a small group of other women. But the
Mhm.
question with women that men
Interesting.
don't ask, which is so great that we get to ask it, is why? Why am I going into battle? Why am I going to engage and defend myself? Whereas men were just pretty much, which relieved them, from any sort of voluntary decision, which then they
Mhm.
would end up with PTSD because they had no choice in their decision. Like, later they start to ask, well, wait a minute. Why did I do that? Should I have done that? Should I have killed that guy? Should I have it doesn't
Mhm.
matter what they thought at the time. It's just follow orders. Whereas women, we don't really take orders. We give orders. And so
Right.
Right.
it's really fascinating to see, like, we don't have to process it at the end. We have to process what the outcome was, but instantly, we make the decision, we go into action, we do what we have to do, we deal with the aftermath later, but it doesn't, we're okay with that. We've already resolved that. We've chosen to do it. Someone's
Hmm.
Mhm.
not telling us to do it. And it's
Yeah.
just such a beautiful thing to see this played out in history and think, how in the heck have we gotten here? I saw a clip. It was last week, and it was Reese Witherspoon, who I've always thought was kind of shallow, but she posted. She's not. She posted this Well, there's a video of her, and she's like, "Why? How have we ended up here?" And she talks so sweet, which I don't really have that tone of voice, but it's like, how did we end up here? And so she's like, "Now you'll never unsee it." And it's these clips, this collaboration of clips, this collage where you see all these A-listing actresses, and all of these different cartoons where it's like,
Hmm.
oh no, what do we do? And then there you see another
Yeah.
A-lister turn to a male actor and say, oh, well, what do we do now? And it's like, she's like, ever, ever in history, have you ever seen a woman in crisis say, oh no, what do we do now? She's like, never. And it's so true. We don't ever we don't
That's
say a
true.
word, we don't scream, we just move straight into action. And that truly is what I'm finding with my research, story after story,
Mhm.
is that women engage without question when we need to protect our land, our
Mm.
water, our livestock, our loved ones, the keiki, the children, even our own significant others or boyfriends, right? There was no such thing as marriage in ancient times. That
Hmm.
came into play because of property rights. Women held the title of
Hmm.
property, not the men. The men worked the land at the request of the
Hmm.
women. So it's very,
Interesting.
this happened, this switch because of
Hmm.
property rights. Plus, they couldn't, they don't want the woman to be the stable one, that the old culture, they wanted it now for the children to be identified under the male
Hmm.
surname.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So very
Okay.
fascinating. So we make the decision, and I think we just need today, we need to remember that we make this decision and we need to prepare to make this decision. And I think that is one of the big things I'm focusing on now is who is the warrior when she's not warring? And
Oh yeah.
I've also gone as far as women hate the word warrior. Well, we hate the word. We don't want anything to do with war, and we really don't. So I switched it. It's kind of synonymous, but it works better. Think about how you feel about being a protector.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Just that
Mm-hmm.
word changes the way we feel
Yeah.
about engaging. And so that's the word I use now. Who is the protector when she's not
Right.
protecting? How is she preparing? How is she diligently governing over her land, her
Right.
life, herself? How is she physically preparing to engage, to protect herself and the loved ones that she has in her life? So it's really shifted things. So, as a protector, we know we have a duty. Our spine
Mm.
changes. We know we'll
Yeah.
engage. There's no more question of, I don't want to hurt anybody. This is what I constantly hear all the time. Well, if someone wants to hurt you, I'm like, what is
Right.
Yeah.
going on here?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We totally are vibing with that. What you're talking about as far as
Oh,
protector. We formed our LLC
Mm-hmm.
recently, and we had to pick a different name because the original one was taken already. And we decided to go with the Japanese word for protection, which is mamaru. And so now we're the Mamaru
Mm-hmm.
Initiative LLC.
Excuse me.
I love
Yeah.
Yeah.
it. It's
Um,
perfect.
but we're,
Yeah.
we've been doing a lot of reels on TikTok about protecting yourself, basically paying attention to what people are doing,
Mm-hmm.
making decisions to walk away, to say no, etc. So
Hmm.
we're right there with you.
Good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
There's not enough of us. And so keep doing it. Keep doing your
Yeah,
work.
we are.
It's great.
Thank you.
Who,
Yeah.
who wants to take the
Definitely.
next question?
So, our next question, I think you kind of already touched on this a bit, but maybe you could go into it a little deeper. How have women's attitudes toward combat changed over time?
Oh, I think you know the answer. We live within walls and locked doors, and we feel safer. But in reality,
Mm.
we're not any more safer. It's just gotten more advanced as far as techniques on how to approach women, attack women, for
Hmm.
whatever reason. Usually, it's power and control that we're dealing with on the other
Yeah.
end. Um,
Yeah.
so we have this appearance and illusion of being safe. And for the most part, we are, if we could stay aware. But there's a lot of women out there still that are just like, oh, it would never happen to me. And that's
Yeah.
incorrect. It can happen at the
So
gas
true.
station. It can happen in your car. We can get in a car accident. And it's not
Right.
really an accident just to get you out of the car. So there's certain
Mm.
protocol, that we need to know as women. I have a program I haven't launched. I've been working on it for 3 years. It's the weaponized woman. Of course, another, poorly charged title, right? Oh, weapon. We don't want that word
We're
weapon
women.
anywhere.
Woo!
But
Yeah.
we are weapon. We
Yeah.
are the weapon. I mean,
Yeah.
oh
Mm.
no, it's your body. You're the what? Yes, that's true. But I mean, literally, our sight of vision, our field of vision, how we train, how we operate and move through the world. We are that weapon. We're our hero, our knight on the shining arm. In the shining knight, on the horse and in shining armor. So yeah, it's changed because I think we've become a lot more relaxed. We feel that we don't need to do that. We're not living in
Mm-hmm.
that age of less technology, less civilization. But
Mm-hmm.
I think that the attacks have gotten even more violent. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's whether it is or not. I think that we just need to train, and we need to train in the way that we're not coming across our neighbor. We're coming across a criminal or an individual that absolutely has zero disregard for you and doesn't care if you're left there in a pool of blood.
Hmm.
So this is the way I think the illusion to actually probably people saying it's a little bit extreme, but why not be ready?
Right.
That's what we need to think about.
Yeah,
We need to train
exactly.
where we are having force against us, where we know what it's like to match that, just so we can see where physically breath, blinking, bottom part of our body where it's insufficient, we're standing too far. How do we press a wall? That's a really great way to start, is put yourself up against the wall.
Yeah.
Are you going to hurt your shoulder? Get in that position and push isometrically and feel like, does your foot need to be a little bit farther out? Do you need to be a little more grounded? See where your head needs to be, so you have more of a line of pressure and force matching that, and spin off of it. So learning how to maneuver outside of that as well. I think that we go to the gym, or we're in certain physical activities we enjoy, and that's so important, especially for our mental health, and just moving the energy and up and down our body and out. But I think for our training, it really needs to be where we know how to get off the floor. How many seconds does it take us from all positions? Can we stay down there? Can we fight? What if our one arm is blocked, using one hand on our back? What if both arms are blocked? How are we staying congruent, or, is the body like disconnected from the head? So all of these things, is our stomach strong enough, our core, to be able to roll up and stand up and get ready to fight? So there's all these things we need to think about in our daily workout, that will help us not feel like we're more vulnerable. So yeah, I think we're actually, if not equal, we're a little bit more vulnerable today.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we don't have
Yeah.
like a pistol
Definitely.
or a bayonet
Right.
wrapped on us, right? Like ancient
Yeah.
women did. Yeah.
Yeah. Rochelle, do you want to take the next question?
Sure. How do women? You have kind of answered this too, but I'll ask it anyways. How do
Sorry.
women? It's okay. It's totally fine. Everything you're saying, I'm
Michelle.
totally resonating with, so it's fine. How do women tend to view combat and combat training now?
I think they're resistant. Even a female relative of mine said, I'd rather have a root canal than go to some
Oh
self-defense
my.
class.
Oh my
And
gosh.
Wow.
and she has had a lot of dental work, because when she says that, she really means it. She doesn't want to see some guy standing up there with a 20th degree black belt. You just do this, just, and that's all we ever hear is just. If it was just, it would just be easy for
Right.
everybody.
Right.
I think body mechanics have a lot to do with it. Again, women not thinking that they need it, relying on men, um, relying on good Samaritans. I just,
Right.
it's really difficult, and they just don't believe. They truly, and so they don't want to deal. They don't want to have to confront Rochelle. They think that, it's better to not know, that
Yes.
they're absolutely not going to survive against a man with a knife or a gun, let alone
Right.
suffocation, or worse, some of these other items they have these days. So I think it's that. I think they just don't believe they'll survive, so why even try?
True.
Yeah, it's interesting. When we did have some self-defense classes going, we had a couple people that per class, it was one or two. One of the things I found really interesting to deal with was getting anybody to hit anything hard enough, right? I was really surprised when I would try to train people how to hit hard, that they just didn't want to hit anything. And I remember going through that with myself, just because of trauma, not necessarily because of like some, I don't know what else to call it, wimpy woman belief that I shouldn't hit things. I remember feeling that, like, I hit somebody in the face accidentally one time during training, and I cried because I felt bad about it.
Yes.
But also at the same time, I wanted to be able to, like, if somebody's coming after me, hit them so hard that they go back, right? So
Yeah.
so I found that there was so many things that I'm asking women specifically to do that they struggle with, for a variety of reasons, and
Yeah.
to overcome that is difficult. Have you experienced that sort of thing in training women in the Lua?
Yeah, it's just everyday woman. Not so much. Well, in Lua, I think we learn progressively, so it's hard, especially if you're virtual. There's really no one you're touching, but well, if you think of the history of this, we'll go back to when we're little girls, right? Of our era. We're all of the same generation. And
Hmm.
we were to be quiet. We were to sit by
Hmm.
ourselves. We were to play alone, not make a
True.
noise, have our tea party and doll parties, maybe a
Yep.
quiet car race if you stole your brother's little car, right? But you didn't bang it up with the guys. You weren't allowed to scream, have emotions. And I think this is where those of us from our generation, our programming comes from. We don't like we're not used to people touching us. It's usually in a poor way, in a punitive way.
Hmm.
It's not in a playful sports exchange type of way. So we have to learn this when we're older to
Right.
realize, even just people bumping into us at the grocery store, we're like, it throws us out of our comfort zone, out of our personal space, our sphere. And so we have to learn this as we're older, especially if we want to prepare to be a protector, and to own our space more and to create our existence. And when someone wants to threaten that, we can stop them.
Right.
So it's really
Yeah.
hard when growing up and doing the girls' activities when the boys had the chance to bump and play and lose and win and understand that
Yeah.
dynamic. So women will freeze. They will blink. They'll actually close their eyes for a period of time, and it is not
Mm,
voluntary. It's involuntary, and then they won't
Mm.
open them, and
mm.
they hold their breath.
Mm-hmm.
So these are all things that women, if they
Wow.
haven't touched someone else, so difficult because we're starting there at like an hour and a half, 2 hour self-defense workshop. And you're like, oh, we're really going to have
And
it today. But then you see the growth. By the time you're
Hmm.
closing, they're new women. And they're like,
yeah,
oh my, well, it's not that we're not capable. It's just, it's not something we're used
Right.
to. So
right.
um,
Yeah.
I
There's
think that once, go ahead.
there's also an assumption that somehow they're going to figure it out in the moment when something happens, if something bad happens to them, which I
Yep,
find
it does.
frustrating because it's just not true. You have to have training to be able to respond to whatever's happening to you. And I'm the least likely person out of the three of us to want to punch things, but turns out I love to punch things. So go figure.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah, it was really
Right?
fun to watch
I
Rochelle's
love
trajectory
that.
on that because,
Uh,
and then you had to brace yourself because she was coming in hard, you
Coming
know.
in hot, hot,
I
But
hot,
love
we
that.
found
hot.
that, yeah,
Going
to
hot.
we did find that though. I remember this one girl in particular. She was um, just had a lot of anxiety anyway, and just struggled a little. But when she got a pair of the gloves, and she started pounding on the pads. And she loved it. She absolutely loved it. And like you said, Michelle, it's like a new woman.
Yes, it's truly a rebirthing right
Mhm.
before your eyes as the instructors, and you could just see this happen, the light bulbs clicking and the body getting into it. It's just like I think that it's in every single one of our DNA. I think that we have forgotten. I think that once the women that you get to share with, they feel that and something gets ignited and they're like, well, wait a minute. It's like all of their foremothers, their ancestors become alive in them and they just start moving but it's hard because then they can get so into it that they hurt themselves. So we've got to try to, and
Hmm.
this is what Stephanie and I work on is percentage of force, percentage of power that you're throwing and where and how you're using it.
Yes.
Is it a circular? Is it straight in? Is it 20%, 80%? At what point? Is it the first strike? Is it the third strike? Like when are you running
Right.
away? And it's like thinking,
Right.
so it's exactly what you're talking about, Evelyn. It's like what is the progression, and
Hmm.
then Rochelle with the power, like doesn't that feel amazing, especially when you get your
Yeah.
breath in tune and just like
Yeah.
whoa, you feel like a Mortal Kombat character.
Yeah.
It's just awesome.
I had an
Yeah.
So
experience in March, and this was before my surgery.
surgery.
I was at that 5-day training with my sensei, and I think it was the last day. It was kind of a fun day because we'd done all the training and the testing and what have you, and he was just having us. It was like an open class, and Evelyn and Rochelle were there, so we had all of the guys
Hmm.
line up, And
Yes.
Oh, that
yeah.
story. Oh.
he told them to toughen their abdomens, and all the women, and I guess the lower belts or whatever, were going to hit them in the abdomen without any protection. So I got paired up with this one specific person, kind of a bigger guy. And I just, I hadn't spent a lot of time like actually hitting anyone. I think I hit the pads and the bags and what have you.
Mm-hmm.
And I just went for it with all that I knew. And I hit him really hard, how long was it? Like 2 minutes?
Something like that. It wasn't very
it
long
was,
each time.
yeah, and he was starting to like step back a little bit because I think I was hurting him. But then afterwards, he shook my hand and he said, "Congratulations, you hit really hard." And then he's like, "Sensei, she hits really hard." So I do these online classes when I can that are late at night on Thursdays for me. And it's with our teacher, and he was teaching us something, and he wanted to demonstrate our striking power. And so he was like, "Stephanie, you remember that day when I was there? I want to see that again." So
He remembers.
as a
That's good.
woman, that made me feel really good. First of all, that a man would give me that kind of feedback, that I was actually hurting him.
Yeah.
Not that I was trying to necessarily, but I was doing what I was told. He was receiving what he was told.
Mm-hmm.
Nonetheless, it made me feel confident that if I ever had to hit a man because he was coming after me, or anyone else, it doesn't have to be a man, it could be anybody.
Right.
Because
Women can be vicious too.
Yeah.
That I have
They
some
can be.
power and some strength, and I could like fight them off and scare them maybe, so I really appreciate the training because it does help me with my own confidence in what I can do.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you for sharing. That's exactly why we do. I think we are in this world to help other women. We're all on the same mountain. It's just some of us are a little bit farther down on the path. And it's so wonderful for us to go through that evolution, so we know exactly where these women are on the path and their potential struggles, and we know what we've struggled with, and we also know the triumph of making it the next step. And so it's beautiful. Yeah, I think for me, ultimately, it's always the biggest compliment is that I'm strong. I had this the other day in Vegas at a conference where they brought all of the fighter women up, and the whole stage was filled with men, of course. And we won't even go into that. It's not even their fault. It's the era. Women were missing forever. Here now, suddenly we've appeared. So there's one woman up there. Here we are. Anyway, so so he said, where are all the women fighters in the audience? I wasn't going to stand up, and then of course got singled out, and then so there's quite a few of us, and the gentleman, the host, said, we were in Germany one time, and Michelle lifted me off the ground and put me over her head, and that's an exaggeration. I did lift him off the ground. I didn't put him up over my head, but everyone was like, "Whoa,
okay.
whoa, the audience, whoa," and I was like, "Yeah, that's right. I am strong, and that's all you should know about me." And it just feels so nice to be dense physically, dense, powerful, aware, and ready, and strong, ready to rock and roll at any moment. I may get surprised, but as soon as that training kicks in and I'm ready to go. So it is truly such a beautiful compliment for us women to be strong. Yeah. So eat that up, Stephanie.
Yeah. I haven't had any experiences of physical training, but I've had a couple with mental training and things I've noticed that other people don't necessarily notice people doing. And there was one incident where this woman came in. I work at a store out here, a convenience store, and this woman came in and she started asking me all these really strange questions and very personal questions, like information about me. And I essentially told her, I don't want to tell you any of that. And I looked out to where she was going, and there was a car full of guys that she was getting into. And I felt like, what if one of these young girls that work at my store had been the person she walked up to and started asking these questions? They might have answered her, not knowing what was going on. It was, to me, it was like, that's very odd that she would come and start asking these random questions. When I left the store later that night, I don't know if it was the same car, but there was a car full of people in the back of the store where I usually would park my car. And nothing happened, but just that experience, like noticing things like that and seeing things like that because of training I never would have known or seen or even thought about beforehand, before I knew how to handle myself when it comes to things like that.
So wonderful. So wonderful.
We're almost to the 30-minute mark. We've got quite a few more questions. This has been a fun conversation so far, and I'm really glad that
really enjoying it.
You're here with us and talking to us about these things.
Yeah.
So we're going to go ahead and wrap up this half of the episode and then restart again. So I like to thank you for joining us today. We are on Amazon Music. I just started that. We are on iHeartRadio. Still working out the kinks with Apple Podcasts. I don't know what its deal is. And also YouTube. You can find Spotify does videos, so you can find us there. We also make reels pretty frequently on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and also YouTube. Where we're just talking about some really important things that people just need to know. So, go look for us there and get some information and education and, share. Just share, People need to know this stuff. Mm-hmm. So if you find any value in what we're saying, feel free to pass it along to someone else. So thank you again for joining us today. I'm Stephanie Dunham.
I'm Evelyn Nason.
I'm Michelle Manu.
See you later, Bear Club.
Bye.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thanks so much for joining us as we discussed such an important topic. We hope you got some food for thought and encouragement to keep going and keep growing. See you later, Bear Club.